What if the secret to reversing muscle loss and extending your physical vitality was not in a protein powder at all, but in a food that humans have relied on for thousands of years? We have been told for decades that if you want to build muscle, recover faster, and prevent age-related decline, you need one thing: whey protein. It is convenient, heavily marketed, and associated with strength. But what if the real key to preserving muscle as we age is not in a shaker bottle, but in something profoundly more complex, something that supports not just muscle tissue, but mitochondrial function, inflammation control, and even genetic signaling? Because here is the truth. Muscle loss with aging, known as sarcopenia, is not simply a problem of low protein intake. It is a metabolic crisis. It is a cellular breakdown driven by inflammation, mitochondrial dysfunction, and anabolic resistance. That is, your muscles gradually stop responding to protein signals the way they did in your 20s or 30s. And this process begins quietly, long before visible weakness or frailty sets in. At the cellular level, your muscle fibers are dynamic engines. They are filled with mitochondria, those tiny powerhouses that generate the energy needed for every contraction, every repair process, every step you take. As we age, these mitochondria become less efficient, inflammation creeps up, and protein synthesis slows down. The result? Muscles gradually shrink, strength declines, and metabolic health suffers, leading to fatigue, insulin resistance, and even increased risk of mortality. But here is the empowering part. This decline is not inevitable, and new research is showing that one particular whole food, not a powder, not a supplement, can trigger remarkable improvements in muscle synthesis, mitochondrial function, and longevity pathways. This food contains a matrix of amino acids, bioactive peptides, omega fats, minerals, and unique growth factors that interact synergistically with your muscle cells. It not only activates mTOR for muscle building, but also enhances mitochondrial biogenesis and reduces chronic inflammation. Throughout this breakdown, we are going to unpack exactly how sarcopenia develops at the cellular level, why conventional protein strategies often fail, and how this food works differently, enhancing both muscle repair and metabolic resilience. We will explore, number 1, why the conventional approach to protein misses the bigger picture. Number 2, the real cellular drivers behind muscle loss and metabolic aging. Number 3, how this food rebuilds muscle while simultaneously supporting longevity pathways. Number 4, the critical role of micronutrients and bioactive compounds beyond amino acids. Number 5, the daily habits that either accelerate or reverse sarcopenia. And number 6, how you can use this knowledge to design a nutrition plan that truly supports strength and longevity at every age. By the end of this video, you will understand not just what to eat, but why it works down to the mitochondrial and genetic level. So if you are ready to challenge everything you have been told about protein, muscle, and aging, let us dive deep into the science of how one ancestral food can rebuild strength from the inside out and truly kill sarcopenia. For years, the fitness and nutrition world has been built around a simple idea: eat more protein, build more muscle. And on the surface, that logic seems sound. After all, protein provides amino acids, the raw materials your body uses to build and repair tissue. But when we start to look deeper into how muscle actually grows and adapts, especially as we age, the story becomes far more complex. Whey protein, in particular, has been marketed as the gold standard. It digests rapidly, it spikes amino acid levels in the blood, and it is rich in leucine, a key amino acid that triggers a pathway called mTOR, which signals muscle growth. For a young, healthy person with abundant mitochondrial energy, low inflammation, and responsive cells, this works beautifully. But for someone in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, that same shake does not produce the same anabolic response. Why? Because the problem is not simply lack of protein, it is anabolic resistance. This is the gradual decline in your muscle's ability to respond to protein signals. Think of it like this. In your 20s, a single serving of protein flips a switch inside your muscle cell that says, build new tissue. By your 60s, that same serving is like pressing a worn-out button that barely responds. At the cellular level, several things are happening. Chronic low-grade inflammation, often driven by poor diet, sedentary lifestyle, and stress, disrupts insulin signaling and mTOR activity. Mitochondria, which provide the energy required for protein synthesis, become less efficient and produce more reactive oxygen species. This oxidative stress damages the very machinery needed to build muscle, and as inflammation rises, the muscle's satellite cells, those tiny repair units responsible for regenerating new fibers, become less active. Whey protein, while it can provide amino acids, does not address any of these underlying issues. It cannot restore mitochondrial efficiency, lower inflammation, or enhance the signaling pathways that have gone quiet with age. In fact, consuming large amounts of isolated whey can sometimes elevate insulin levels, increase oxidative stress, and create metabolic imbalances if not combined with micronutrient-rich whole foods. The research is clear. Older adults need quality, not just quantity of protein. The key is to supply not only amino acids, but also the cofactors and bioactive compounds that support mitochondrial function, reduce inflammation, and enhance muscle signaling. That is where the food we will soon discuss truly shines. Let me break this down with a simple analogy. Imagine trying to repair a building with bricks, but no workers, no tools, and no power supply. That is what happens when you give your body protein without the metabolic and micronutrient support it needs. Whey gives you the bricks, but your aging muscle cells need electricity and skilled workers' energy, antioxidants, minerals, and bioactive molecules to actually rebuild. This is why so many people can consume plenty of protein, yet still feel weaker, softer, and more fatigued over time. It is not a lack of willpower or effort, it is a lack of cellular support. And this is where our story begins to shift, because there is a natural, whole food source of protein that provides not only the amino acids your muscles crave, but also the living ecosystem of cofactors that make those amino acids truly effective. If this breakdown is resonating with you so far, go ahead and press the subscribe button. It helps more people discover this kind of science-backed health content. In the next section, we are going to dive into exactly what happens inside your muscle cells as you age. We will uncover how inflammation, mitochondria, and nutrient sensing all interact, and why understanding this mechanism is the key to preventing sarcopenia for life. Let us step inside the muscle cell for a moment into the microscopic world where strength, energy, and resilience are either built or lost. When we talk about sarcopenia, we often picture thinning muscles or loss of strength. But the story actually starts decades earlier in the mitochondria, the tiny organelles that act as the power plants of your cells. In your 20s and 30s, these mitochondria are abundant, efficient, and highly responsive. They take nutrients like glucose and fatty acids, combine them with oxygen, and generate adenosine triphosphate, the energy currency your muscles need to contract, repair, and grow. But as we age, a slow and silent process unfolds. Mitochondria become damaged from oxidative stress, their numbers decline, and the cellular cleanup systems that normally recycle them, a process known as mitophagy, become less active. When mitochondria fail, two critical things happen. First, energy production drops. Your muscle cells simply cannot generate enough adenosine triphosphate to sustain strong contractions or support efficient protein synthesis. Second, the damaged mitochondria start leaking reactive oxygen species unstable molecules that cause oxidative damage to DNA, membranes, and proteins. This sparks chronic low-grade inflammation that scientists now call inflammaging, a persistent background fire that slowly erodes cellular function throughout the body. This inflammation interferes with insulin signaling and the activation of mTOR, the molecular switch that controls muscle growth. As a result, your muscles become less responsive to the anabolic signals that normally follow exercise or protein intake. Even when you eat a high-protein meal, the body's ability to translate that signal into new muscle tissue is blunted. This is the essence of anabolic resistance. But that is not the only problem. The muscle's repair crew, its satellite cells, also become less active with age. These are stem cell-like units that sit on the surface of your muscle fibers, waiting to repair damage or stimulate new growth. When inflammation is high and mitochondria are weak, these satellite cells go dormant. So, even if you exercise and eat enough protein, the cellular workers responsible for rebuilding muscle are not fully showing up to the job. The result is a gradual shift in body composition. Muscle fibers shrink, fat infiltrates the tissue, and the metabolic rate slows down. strength, mobility, and resilience start to fade. Most people notice this in their 40s or 50s, but research shows it begins quietly in the 30s. By the time it is visible, the underlying cellular dysfunction has often been developing for years. Now here is where it gets interesting. Your body has built-in systems to fight back. Exercise, particularly resistance training, triggers a surge of molecular signals that stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis, the creation of new mitochondria. Fasting, cold exposure, and even heat stress can also activate autophagy and mitophagy, clearing out old, damaged organelles and rejuvenating cellular function. These hormetic stressors, small, controlled doses of challenge, are nature's way of keeping our cellular engines young. However, to fully restore muscle health, these stressors must be supported nutritionally. The mitochondria needs specific cofactors like coenzyme Q10, carnitine, and omega-3 fatty acids to operate efficiently. The muscle fibers need antioxidants from whole foods to buffer oxidative stress. And the body needs complete, bioavailable protein sources that work synergistically with these nutrients, rather than in isolation like whey. So when we ask why muscles age, the answer is clear. It is not just about getting weaker, it is about losing metabolic power at the cellular level. The mitochondria slow down, the signaling pathways misfire, and the repair systems go dormant. Sarcopenia, therefore, is not just a loss of muscle, it is a loss of cellular vitality. And that brings us to the most exciting part of this story. There is a food that targets all of these mechanisms simultaneously. It rebuilds mitochondrial efficiency, reduces inflammation, activates mTOR when appropriate, and supports satellite cell function naturally. In the next section, we will reveal exactly what that food is and explore why it might just be the most complete, science-backed muscle-building food on the planet. If you are enjoying this breakdown, consider subscribing. I post weekly deep dives into longevity science and evidence-based nutrition. So, what is this food that can outperform whey protein not just for muscle growth, but for overall metabolic health and longevity? It is the egg specifically, the whole egg, not just the white. For decades, the fitness industry has told us to focus on egg whites for their pure protein and avoid the yolk because of cholesterol. But when scientists began to look deeper at how the entire egg affects muscle synthesis, mitochondrial function, and inflammation, the results were remarkable. The whole egg is nature's perfect anabolic matrix, a precise combination of amino acids, healthy fats, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and bioactive compounds that work together to support every stage of muscle growth and repair. And when you remove the yolk, you remove many of the cofactors that make that protein truly effective. Let us look at what happens inside your muscle cells when you eat a whole egg. At the most basic level, the egg provides a complete set of essential amino acids, including leucine, isoleucine, and valine. The branch-chain amino acids that directly activate mTOR, the molecular switch for muscle protein synthesis. But that is only the beginning. The yolk contains phospholipids, choline, and omega-3 fatty acids that nourish your cell membranes and mitochondria, enhancing their ability to generate energy and communicate effectively. It also delivers vitamins A, D, E, and K2, along with minerals like selenium and zinc, all of which play crucial roles in reducing inflammation, supporting antioxidant defense, and facilitating enzymatic reactions in muscle tissue. Here is what is fascinating. A study from the University of Illinois compared muscle protein synthesis after resistance training when participants consumed either whole eggs or egg whites containing identical amounts of protein. The researchers found that whole eggs stimulated significantly greater muscle protein synthesis than egg whites alone. The difference was not the protein content, it was the presence of the yolk's micronutrients and bioactive compounds that enhanced the anabolic response. At the cellular level, these compounds improve mitochondrial function, stabilize cell membranes, and enhance nutrient sensing. They provide the cofactors required for efficient adenosine triphosphate production, the energy currency your muscle cells need for repair and growth. Essentially, the yolk turns the protein from fuel into a coordinated rebuilding signal. Now, let me break this down with a simple example. Imagine your muscle cell as a high-performance engine. Protein gives you the raw fuel, but without oil, spark plugs, and oxygen, that engine cannot run efficiently. The yolk provides those critical components, the phospholipids that keep membranes flexible, the vitamins that protect against oxidative damage, and the choline that ensures efficient communication between your nervous system and your muscle fibers. Another fascinating compound found in eggs is lutein, a carotenoid better known for its role in eye health. But research now shows that lutein also improves mitochondrial efficiency and reduces oxidative stress in muscle tissue. Together with choline, it supports the formation of new cell membranes during muscle repair. And unlike whey protein, which is an isolated fraction of milk, the egg is a living food designed by nature to support growth and development. Every gram of its protein and fat exists in perfect proportion with the micronutrients required to use it effectively. It is essentially a complete biological blueprint for life, one that your body recognizes and utilizes with extraordinary precision. Beyond its direct anabolic effects, whole eggs also support hormones that influence muscle metabolism, such as testosterone and insulin-like growth factor 1. The cholesterol and healthy fats in the yolk are not villains, they are raw materials for hormone synthesis and cell repair. So, when you think about building muscle and preventing sarcopenia, do not think about isolated protein powders. Think about nutrient synergy, the way nature designs foods to work as systems, not fragments. In the upcoming section, we will explore the next layer of this story, how micronutrients, antioxidants, and hormetic stressors like exercise and fasting amplify this process, creating a biological environment where muscle growth and longevity thrive together. Before we move on, a quick reminder: if you are enjoying this, do like, comment, and subscribe. It really supports the channel and helps spread these tools to more people. If protein provides the building blocks for muscle, then micronutrients and hormetic stressors provide the blueprint, the energy, and the spark that make those blocks come alive. Muscle is not built in isolation. It is built in the complex interplay between nutrients, stress, recovery, and adaptation. And the secret to maintaining that balance, especially as we age, lies far beyond amino acids. Let us begin with the micronutrients. Every time your muscle cell synthesizes new protein, it requires a web of enzymes and cofactors to carry out the reaction. These include magnesium, which stabilizes adenosine triphosphate, zinc, which regulates over 300 enzymatic reactions, selenium, which supports antioxidant defense, and iron, which is essential for oxygen transport within muscle tissue. Deficiency in any one of these can stall muscle repair at the biochemical level. Consider magnesium for a moment. It is required for both energy production and muscle relaxation. Without enough magnesium, your mitochondria cannot efficiently generate adenosine triphosphate, and calcium cannot properly flow in and out of the muscle cell. The result? Fatigue, cramps, and impaired recovery, all of which accelerate the loss of muscle mass with age. Vitamin D plays a different but equally powerful role. It interacts with muscle cell receptors to enhance protein synthesis and improve calcium handling. Research shows that older adults with sufficient vitamin D levels maintain greater strength and function than those who are deficient. And when vitamin D works alongside vitamin K2, both present in whole eggs and other nutrient-dense foods, it improves bone integrity and muscular coordination, two pillars of physical longevity. Then there are the antioxidants compounds like lutein, zeaxanthin, and coenzyme Q10 that protect the mitochondria from oxidative stress. When you exercise or expose your body to mild stressors, these compounds help neutralize the reactive oxygen species that would otherwise damage your muscle tissue. The goal is not to eliminate oxidative stress entirely, but to manage it. This is where hormesis enters the picture. Hormesis is the biological phenomenon where small doses of stress make you stronger. Exercise, fasting, cold exposure, and even heat therapy all trigger hormetic responses that upregulate antioxidant enzymes, stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis, and improve insulin sensitivity. Here is what happens. When you lift weights, your muscle fibers experience microscopic damage. That damage sends a signal to the body that says, "We need to adapt." In response, your body releases growth factors, recruits satellite cells, and builds new mitochondria. The same principle applies to fasting. Temporary nutrient deprivation activates autophagy, the process that clears out damaged proteins and organelles, keeping your cells young and efficient. Now, imagine combining that hormetic signal with the nutrient density of a whole food like the egg. You are not just repairing the muscle, you are upgrading it. The amino acids rebuild the structure, the micronutrients fuel the enzymes, and the hormetic stressors trigger the adaptation response. This synergy creates what we could call a muscle longevity loop, a self-reinforcing cycle where stress, nutrition, and recovery build on one another to produce stronger, more resilient muscle tissue. Let me give you a simple image. Think of your muscle cell as a high-tech factory. The amino acids are the materials, the mitochondria are the power plants, and the micronutrients are the tools and technicians that keep everything running smoothly. Exercise provides the challenge that forces the factory to innovate and expand. Together they form a perfectly balanced ecosystem of breakdown and renewal. This is why a nutrient-dense, whole food diet paired with regular hormetic stressors has such profound effects on longevity. You are not only preserving muscle, you are training your cells to stay young, efficient, and responsive. In the next section, we will take these concepts out of the lab and into real life. We will explore how to integrate these foods and habits into your daily routine, from meal timing and exercise to sleep and recovery, so you can build strength, energy, and longevity simultaneously. If you are finding this helpful, subscribe if you want more deep dives into nutrition and longevity science. Science is powerful, but it only becomes life-changing when we put it into practice. And when it comes to defeating sarcopenia and building muscle that lasts, the real magic happens in how we live day to day, in how we eat, move, sleep, and recover. Let us begin with nutrition, the foundation of this entire process. The most effective approach for long-term muscle health is not high-protein overload, but nutrient synergy. Start with whole food protein sources that deliver both amino acids and micronutrients like eggs, wild-caught salmon, sardines, grass-fed beef, lentils, and fermented dairy such as kefir or Greek yogurt. Each of these foods provides not only protein but also vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids that nourish your mitochondria and reduce inflammation. Timing also matters. Studies show that spreading your protein intake evenly throughout the day, roughly 25 to 30 grams per meal, produces a stronger anabolic response than consuming one large dose at night. This balanced distribution gives your muscles repeated opportunities to activate protein synthesis while maintaining stable energy levels. Pair those meals with colorful vegetables, leafy greens, and anti-inflammatory fats such as olive oil or avocado. The polyphenols and antioxidants in these foods combat oxidative stress generated by exercise and aging. Think of every meal as an opportunity to feed not just your muscles, but your mitochondria and your microbiome, the entire internal ecosystem that supports your metabolism. Now, let us talk about exercise, the most potent signal for preserving muscle and longevity. Resistance training remains the single most effective intervention against sarcopenia. Lifting weights, performing bodyweight exercises, or using resistance bands triggers molecular pathways that instruct your body to build new muscle fibers and mitochondria. Aim for at least 2 to 3 sessions per week, focusing on compound movements like squats, push-ups, and rows. Even 15 to 20 minutes of consistent strength work can dramatically improve muscle quality over time. But muscle health is not only about lifting. Aerobic conditioning, walking, cycling, or swimming enhances mitochondrial density and vascular function. When combined with strength training, it creates a metabolic environment that supports both power and endurance. Then comes recovery, an often overlooked piece of the longevity puzzle. Muscle growth does not happen during the workout itself, it happens afterward, while you rest and sleep. Deep sleep releases growth hormone and activates tissue repair. Prioritize at least 7 hours of quality sleep each night. Maintain a consistent schedule and avoid blue light before bed to optimize your circadian rhythm. Stress management is another crucial factor. Chronic stress elevates cortisol, which breaks down muscle tissue and suppresses anabolic hormones. Practices such as meditation, deep breathing, and exposure to nature help rebalance the nervous system and lower inflammatory load. And finally, hormetic practices, short exposures to cold, heat, or fasting can amplify your cellular resilience. Cold showers, sauna sessions, or time-restricted eating stimulate autophagy and mitochondrial renewal, reinforcing the adaptations you gain from exercise and nutrition. The key is moderation. Small, consistent stressors build strength, while chronic or excessive stress does the opposite. Let me illustrate this with a simple framework. Imagine your daily routine as a biological symphony. Nutrition provides the instruments, exercise sets the rhythm, recovery creates harmony, and stress management keeps everything in tune. When these elements play together, your body becomes not just stronger, but younger on a cellular level. So, if you want to build muscle and extend your health span, do not chase extremes. Focus on consistency and synergy. Eat real, nutrient-rich foods, move daily, sleep deeply, stress less, challenge your body just enough to keep it adaptive. In the next section, we will bring everything full circle and explore how muscle is not just a tissue of strength, it is an organ of youth that dictates how long and how well we live. When most people think about muscle, they think about aesthetics, strength, or athletic performance. But in reality, muscle is one of the most vital predictors of how long and how well we live. It is not just tissue, it is a metabolic organ that communicates with the rest of your body through hormones, peptides, and molecular signals. And when it is healthy, everything else functions better. Let us begin with the metabolic connection. Muscle is the primary site where your body disposes of glucose. After every meal, it acts like a sponge, absorbing sugar from the bloodstream and stabilizing your blood glucose levels. When muscle mass declines, as it does with aging and inactivity, your ability to regulate glucose weakens. Blood sugar remains elevated longer, insulin levels rise, and over time this leads to insulin resistance, one of the root drivers of aging, inflammation, and disease. This is why maintaining muscle mass is one of the most effective ways to prevent metabolic disorders such as type 2 diabetes. But it goes further than that. Healthy muscle tissue also secretes small signaling molecules called myokines. These are like biochemical messengers that influence inflammation, brain function, and even immune balance. For instance, the myokine irisin, which is released during exercise, helps convert white fat into metabolically active brown fat, the kind that burns energy and produces heat. Another myokine, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, supports neuroplasticity and memory. Together, these compounds create what researchers call the muscle-brain axis, a direct communication line between physical strength and cognitive vitality. When you lose muscle, you do not just lose power, you lose communication with your entire body. Hormonal balance shifts, inflammatory signals rise, and mitochondrial function declines across multiple organs. This is one reason why low muscle mass is such a strong predictor of mortality, independent of weight or body mass index. Here is what the research shows. People with higher muscle mass and strength live longer, experience fewer chronic diseases, and maintain better cognitive performance as they age. It is not simply because they exercise more, it is because their muscles act as biological guardians, buffering against stress, inflammation, and metabolic dysfunction. Now, let us connect this back to nutrition. When you consume whole, nutrient-dense foods like eggs, fatty fish, legumes, and greens, you are not just feeding muscle fibers, you are nourishing an entire signaling network that keeps your metabolism young. These foods provide the amino acids, antioxidants, and micronutrients your muscle needs to produce myokines, manage oxidative stress, and maintain insulin sensitivity. It is a full circle effect. Strong muscles improve glucose control, which reduces inflammation and oxidative damage, which in turn protects the very mitochondria that power your muscles. This creates a virtuous cycle of regeneration, the biological foundation of longevity. Think of your muscles as your body's longevity currency. Every rep, every nutritious meal, every night of quality sleep is an investment that compounds over time. The more metabolically active muscle you maintain, the more resilient your body becomes to injury, illness, and even aging itself. And here is something truly empowering. Even if you are starting later in life, the body remains remarkably responsive. Studies show that people in their 70s and 80s can still build significant muscle and mitochondrial capacity through resistance training and whole food nutrition. The human body does not forget how to adapt. It simply needs the right signals.